Men and women have different brains. That simple sentence could be the cue for some cheap gags or for outrage, but it is now viewed as an important fact in scientific research. To quote the Journal of Neuroscience, to ignore this fact would mean that scientific discoveries that could benefit the health of both men and women would be hampered. In other words, it is medically foolish to deny that men and women have different brains. To do so prevents each sex from receiving the care and advice that would benefit them most. It's not just neuroscientists who believe this. Psychologists have uncovered dozens of ways in which men and women differ in their thinking, emotions, and behavior, ways that are not better or worse, just different. For years, the prevailing argument went that this was produced by sexist cultures and assumptions about men and women that were projected onto children. That is now generally rejected. Secular research suggests that sex differences in most psychological traits are larger in cultures with a more egalitarian sex role culture. To take one example, more egalitarian cultures like Norway and Sweden produce comparatively fewer women pursuing careers in science, technology, engineering, and maths, STEM subjects. Empirical evidence indicates that when there is complete freedom to choose, without economic or social pressures, men and women tend to lean in different directions. You can chase down some of the research yourself, but the headline is this: men and women, in general, are wired differently. Those two words I emphasized may become tedious, but I'm going to keep inserting them. There is plenty of research which suggests that this is not down to cultural views of gender roles. There is a male way of being human that is woven into every part of a man's DNA. Men and women are different, yet culturally we're scared to say it because of the nagging fear that when we say different, people hear not equal, and so begins the descent towards abuse. You're a bigot, you should be cancelled, and so on. Reacting and overreacting. If the wider culture is uncertain about how to express masculinity, so is the church. In the last couple of decades, some have reacted against what they perceived as an effeminate church culture by stressing that Jesus was an alpha male with calloused hands and big biceps who loved to turn tables over and confront opponents. The intention here was good. There was a concern that men would be turned off by a feeble church culture, and so church needed to become guy-friendly. However, this emphasis on a fighting Jesus seemed too frequently to go hand in hand with a domineering and bullying style of church leadership. More generally, there was a danger of presenting a one-dimensional view of masculinity which left many guys thinking, "But I'm nothing like that. I like baking, ballet, and book clubs." In the UK, there has recently been a condemnation of muscular Christianity, which critics say grew out of the Victorian boarding school training for empire mindset. While this approach is perhaps not as crude as fighting Jesus, the allegation is that it produces a view of real manliness as requiring a stiff upper lip mentality, which does not admit weakness or ask for help. Some leaders have tended towards a culture of "we're in a fight against liberal Christianity. Support me or you'll be denounced as not one of us." While there is truth in this accusation, I'm still personally unsure about how widespread the problem is. But now, as a consequence of these exaggerated forms of Christian masculinity, it seems to me that the pendulum is swinging hard in the other direction, and many churches are nervous about articulating any differences between men and women at all. Because we are nervous of exaggerating the differences between the sexes, a historical problem, it has become easier to say nothing at all about them being different, a modern problem. To put it another way, at some points in history, the devil attacks the equality of men and women, while at other points he attacks the difference between them. We need to avoid either exaggerating the difference between the sexes or minimizing it.